in our businesses, we all know defense, and again, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I'm a big fan of defense, but it's a lousy strategy, thank you Green Bay Packer fan, but it's a lousy strategy for agriculture. And I think Bruce Vincent, and some of you have had a chance to hear Bruce speak. He's the logger from Montana, and I think he just hits the nail right on the head when he says, don't confuse fighting with leading. I think we can all look back and we can recall times when we spend a lot of time playing defense, responding and talking points, and we've got to set the record straight and we need to correct that. And as we think about all the challenges we face and our challenges our farmers face, I often think about this Chinese proverb that says, you have a lot of food and you have a lot of problems. Don't have enough food and you have just one problem. And we have the luxury in this country of having a lot of problems because we have access to great food, very affordable food, very nutritious food, prepared and offered and served in a multitude of ways. Walk into the average supermarket, and there's 50,000 food choices to pick from. We're very blessed. And so, but if you get beyond some of the things we've talked about here today, those books and the movies that just flash, there is the reality, and we've talked about it at length. And I'm not going to spend any time on going back because we know what the realities are and the realities that face farmers. And how are we going to get there? How are we going to feed more people doing things better? Well, we're probably not going to go backwards and be successful. And when I go out and I speak to high school students, one of my most favorite audiences, I ask them, would you like to go back 50 years in what you do? Would you like to go back to that telephone? Would you like to prepare your next meal using that gem? Would you like to log on and do your schoolwork and do your blogging and your tweeting using that piece of equipment? How about going back to the good old days when you got 3 stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, maybe the public television channel if a plane didn't fly over your house at the wrong time and scramble the signal? Or how would you like to go back to that? And most people stop and they go, boy, you know what, maybe going back isn't that great. And so we are going to, as agriculturalists, move forward by doing better with less. And certainly, as we all know in this room, farmers are doing just that. In Iowa, we've faced a host of challenges and challengers. The HSUS is there, a lot of local groups, lots of different acronyms. And somehow along the way, we've allowed them to take the high road. That somehow everything they propose is all around social justice. That we need to go back in time because that's the best way to make everything fair for everybody and save the planet. When in fact, and Norman Borlaug's been referenced a couple of times, he really hit the nail on the head when he said, almost certainly the first essential component of social justice is adequate food for all mankind. And when we talk to farmers in Iowa, yeah, they raise a lot of challenges, but they go back to that negative public perception as the greatest threat that they identify that they face that faces the future of their farm and their viability. And we've done research just like all of you have. And what we found in Iowa was that 70% of Iowans know little or nothing about where their food comes from, and yet many of them want to know more. They're hungry for information. As we all know, strong interest with little understanding is a recipe for disaster. Like our previous speaker talked about, being engaged, being at the table can help a great deal. And I found this just came out, that 73% of Americans today say they're more concerned about their food than they were 5 years ago. At a time, and I think about all of the additional tools and resources they have to go for places, to go and get more information about their food, and all the different and new options. Whole Foods just announced yesterday that they're opening a store in West Des Moines. So with all the more choices and more information, people are just getting more and more confused. So, my perspective is, as people have become more disconnected from agriculture, they've become more disconnected from their food and much more casual about their food. You drive through a drive-through today, and 2 minutes later you're handed whatever you ordered. Make a phone call, and 10 minutes later there's a pizza laying on their front porch. Most folks don't have to give a lot of time or thought or attention to their food. They become very casual about their food because, unlike a generation or two ago, most of us had dirt under our fingernails. Our work put food directly on our table. It certainly did as a kid growing up on the farm in north central Iowa. 3 months ago, I had a chance to accompany my first grader to school lunch. And my ears just stopped ringing about 2 hours ago. But we're in this cafeteria with 200 to 300 first, second, and third graders. The sound was comparable to a Boeing 747 taking off. But I sat there beside Garrett, my 7-year-old, and I looked at him from time to time because you couldn't hear yourself talk, so we just kind of looked at each other, and I looked at him, and he's going to town on his green beans and his chicken nuggets and his applesauce. But I looked around at all the other trays on the table and all the other kids, because we have this deal at our house. If you want dessert, dessert is not negotiable. You either clean your plate, you get dessert. If you don't clean your plate, we had 2 menu items growing up at my house, take it or leave it. And so we put food on the table. Please enjoy it, Garrett, Grant, and Jalen. And if you want dessert, we want to see your reflection on the plate when you're done. But I was sitting there having lunch with him in the school cafeteria, and the lights flashed, and we were all asked at that time, my son kicks me, that means we're all supposed to stand and move to the exit where the children leave their trays and head to recess, and the parents get to leave. And I stood there and am in line, and I see this woman at the exit door with a garbage can that's about this big around as this table. And it stands about this tall, and it's on 4 wheels because it's so big you can't move it otherwise. And she's handed plate after plate of food that's not touched. Green beans, chicken nuggets, applesauce, milk, going red. And she's got a spatula, and her only job is to take the trays and wipe the food right off the plates, right into the garbage can. And plate after plate after plate. Well, I get up there and I hand her my tray, and she stops. She sets it aside. Our 7-year-old hands her his tray, and she stops. She sets it aside, and I said, "You probably don't see many empty trays, do you?" And she said, "Sadly, we don't." And the next tray of food, full of chicken nuggets, green beans, applesauce, goes right into the garbage can. And I stopped, and as I was leaving, and I was driving back to work, I thought about that, and I thought to myself, we have become, as people, far too casual about our food. And it didn't take me long to unearth some very troubling statistics. The fact that 40% of all food in this country is not eaten. It's either spoiled or it's wasted. And that equals 29 million tons of food a year, or enough to fill an area the size of the Rose Bowl every 3 days. Now, being from Iowa, unfortunately, we haven't had a team play in the Rose Bowl lately, so I had to remind myself what it looks like. And there's an area the size of the Rose Bowl. In America, each of us, on average, wastes 1.5 pounds of food a day. And that really dwelled on me as I went back to work to help implement a new plan that the Iowa Soybean Association was eager to do to reconnect people to farmers. And I thought, maybe the best thing we can do is reconnect people first to their food. By reconnecting people to their food, perhaps we can then reconnect them to the farmer. We all have lots of events out there, Thank a Farmer. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to Thank a Lawyer Day, so I'm not sure how many people out there pay attention to Thank a Farmer Day. But we in Iowa have chosen to embark on a new long-term effort called the Iowa Food and Family Project. We know these fundamental truths, that if we don't own the message, we lose it. That a good offense is much preferable to the best defense. That transparency in everything we do in agriculture is mandatory. That you must do the first right. That if we stand around waiting for someone else to do something that benefits others, we're going to lose. And to be involved, to involve people, is really critical to helping them understand. How's that old saying go? If you tell me, I'll forget. If you show me, I'll remember. If you involve me, I'll understand. Those were the fundamental truths, and the fact that success is a journey, not a destination. And another truth I keep coming back to is if we think that these types of campaigns, if we think education is expensive, try ignorance. So we launched the Iowa Food and Family Project about a month ago, and its purpose is very straightforward, as is its goal. We are going to embark on a long-term effort in Iowa that truly celebrates the miracle of food and the men and women who provide it. We're going to do that by nurturing opportunities to inspire positive relationships between farmers and consumers through engagement, advocacy, and education. The interesting thing about this effort is there is no board of directors. There are no officers. There are no funding levels for people to come on board and be part of this activity-led movement. Instead, it is surfacing opportunities that create chances for people to engage on food and agriculture and farming. Not going to belabor the key messages because they're messages you've heard before. There's no silver bullet here, folks. There's no magic to this. Instead, it is identifying ways to capture, just for a moment, a person's attention who otherwise would not ever want to really stop and think about agriculture, but who we all know need to learn. There's 4 strategies. They're very simple, and these come from a lot of research that's been done. How many of you have done research on consumer awareness and engagement? That's what I thought. We love research in agriculture. We're going to take that research and we're actually going to implement it in 4 straightforward strategies. We're going to champion the people, everybody. They look back. They don't have to look too far back in their family tree to find that they have farmers in their families. We're going to proactively address the issues of the day. We are going to engage Iowans. Now, I was reminded of this on the flight out here. I just sat down and I was going to, as I told Tom from Highline, I was just going to sit there and do some reading. And the gentleman beside me was in a real talkative mood. And he wanted to know everything in the world about soybeans. He lived in Des Moines, no connection to agriculture. Grandparents, he thinks farmed, but wasn't sure. And it was amazing. An hour later, he said, wow. He said, I had absolutely no idea about food safety, about what farmers do. Just very, what we would all consider second grade stuff. He wanted to know the size of an acre. He wanted to know how big a bushel is. He wanted to know, is his food safe to eat? He wanted to know what farmers are doing to keep the soil in place and what those things were on the side of hills that had grass growing out of them. Terraces. He had no... This is the level that we need to start. We're going to be an advocate. This is key. This Iowa Food and Family Project is going to be an advocate and assist food relief organizations and the people they serve. We have, according to the numbers just came out 2 weeks ago, 380,000 Iowans who are classified as food insecure. And that number, unfortunately, is growing. The final strategy, develop a thoughtful and purposeful direction among all of those in Iowa, all the commodity groups from farm to plate, food retailers, manufacturers, etc., food relief organizations, to become more efficient and effective in what we do. And the bonus strategy is we're going to have some fun in the process. I think we need to inject a little bit more humor, folks, into what we do today. I think it's always wise to make people laugh from time to time. We've heard a lot about social networking. This is what some farmers take. You know, I was driving down Hickman Road the other day in Des Moines, and it's all around us, folks. And people often say that if you inject humor into what you do, that it makes your message more memorable, more believable, and people are attracted to that. And so if you have a Clark W. Griswold who lives down the street from you, simply put up a light display that reads ditto, and you can save yourself a whole lot of time and hassle. In other words, the Iowa Food and Family Project is an effort that is just, we're going to be very simple in what we do, very straightforward in what we do. And as we move forward, obviously audiences are ones that we've all talked about. As I mentioned, we just launched 3 weeks ago. The governor of Iowa, the Lieutenant Governor, the Secretary of Agriculture, all joined in launching the Iowa Food and Family Project. It was hosted by a large and very popular food store in Iowa and in Des Moines. We really don't go to organizations or companies and ask for them to be involved. We just have conversations with others. And they say, wow, can we be involved? Can we get behind this activity-led effort? And of course, by all means. The first thing we did is we just created 2 buckets. One bucket would be advocacy activities. The other bucket would be activities that fall under the personal engagement. You can see what some of those activities are. I'm not going to go through all of them. But on the advocacy side, this column, I'll start writing, actually it's written, we'll launch it this month, it's just a Q&A. How many of you get Sports Illustrated? There's a Q&A in there that's done every week by the sports, Dan Patrick, where he just interviews someone in the world of sports and they have a Q&A back and forth. We're going to do that with notable Iowans, as well as people who visit Iowa. We're having a Q&A with people about food, farming, and family issues. The governor, news reporters, news anchors, owners of restaurant chains, athletic directors. Jamie Pollard there, second from the left, is the athletic director for Iowa State University. And I sat down with him and I said, Jamie, I've read through your bio. It says that you're very good with numbers and budgets. It shows here that you're not afraid to work long hours, and it also says on your bio that you're not above criticism. What's it like to have so much in common with an Iowa farmer? And he leaned back and he said, that's a great question. He says, I guess I've never really compared myself to a farmer, but now that you mention it, some of my most recent coaching decisions and hires are coaches who come from small town Iowa. So there must be a reason behind that. Maybe it's because they're more dedicated, they have a real passion for what it means to be Iowa State. And he just, 2 hours later, folks, I walked out of his office after he talked about all the ways that his work really is very comparable to that of a farmer. And conversations with many other Iowans very similar to that. Of course, we're doing a lot of advocacy through social networking. We're working on a Miracle of Food documentary that will be suitable for nationwide theatrical release. I've grown tired of Food Inc. and Food Inc. 2 and all of these different movies. Folks, we've got a compelling story to tell. And there's no reason it shouldn't be up on the big screen in cinemas all around this country. And so we're working with movie production studios right now. We've developed a trailer. We are writing scripts as we speak, and we have people assisting on this project who have the history and know-how of how to get an idea onto the big screen. We're also working, I'd like to find out a lot more about the traveling exhibit. I think it's a wonderful idea. As it goes to show, there's no such thing as a new idea, and we want to benefit from your work and that exhibit as we incorporate and try to do something similar in Iowa. Under engagement, we have partnered with the Iowa Sports Foundation, which sponsors the Iowa Games, which are an Olympic style of activity held around the state. They also have Live Healthy Iowa, which brings together 150,000 moms and Iowans who are interested in health and wellness and fitness and nutrition. And the whole event and effort will now be powered by Iowa agriculture. What a great opportunity to engage nearly 200,000 Iowans who, for the most part, don't have or have very limited understanding about what farmers do. And we're going to be able to capitalize on spokespersons like Shawn Johnson, Olympic medalist in gymnastics, and Timmy Dwight and other athletes who can connect with young people, and we can weave in agricultural and food messages through them. We have a lot of activities planned through that venue. Some of you may have heard of the Be Our Guest, Be a Farmer contest. We launched this where anybody around the country could register for a chance to come to Iowa and try their hand at farming. And we put a little message up on the Jumbotron in Times Square for a few days. We marketed it through all the social media channels, and we had more than 100 contestants register to try their hand at farming from 31 states where the contestants originated from. And we are now in the process of sifting through those 100 and some contestants. We're going to choose 10 semifinalists. They're going to fill out an application, etc. And we are going to invite the winning entry, along with 3 guests, to Iowa in August to receive royal treatment to the Iowa State Fair. They're going to be on a turkey farm that had the turkey pardoned by George W. Bush here a couple of years ago. They're going to drive tractors. They are going to feed cattle. They're going to sit down and have supper with a farm family. And folks, it's just amazing what kind of interest there is. We have reporters calling and saying, let us know, because we want to follow this family around the state of Iowa. They're going to tour a biodiesel plant. There's some of the activities that they'll be involved in. And it's amazing how many partners have come on board to help want to sponsor this activity that are just saying, hey, we want to help with that. We also have a farm and food experience coming up at the State Fair. The State Fair, we pitched to them an idea of bringing Construction to the State Fair. Anybody here heard of Construction? Those of you who are on a computer or later, go to construction.org. Here's the area that the State Fair has given the Iowa Food and Family Project, which is in the Varied Industries building on the fairgrounds, which is visited by 500,000 people. And we are going to bring Construction to the fair. Now, Construction builds huge creations out of canned food. And we are going to have them build a replica of the Butter Cow, which is an institution at the Iowa State Fair. It's celebrating its 100th anniversary. We're going to have them build a replica of the Butter Cow, along with some other agricultural creations. We're going to have people guess how many cans of food are needed to build those creations. At the end of the fair, all the canned food items go to the Iowa Food Bank Association. We have a coloring contest that will start statewide leading up to the fair. And it's a great way to engage people as they think and pause a little bit about the preciousness of food and who provides it. Give a lot of presentations. High school class assemblies are always a real treat. Great audiences. You just never know what you're going to get asked. The collaborative approach to this effort, folks, has just been tremendous. We've been launched for 3 weeks, and we have enough programming to last us for 30 years, and we have close to 20 partners already on board, and we actually have partners calling and saying, how can we be involved? How can we help with this effort? Because at the end of the day, alone we can do so little, together we can do a whole lot, and that is the purpose behind the Iowa Food and Family Project.